Hi guys, in this video I want to show you the best link building strategy out there, at least in my view, and that is the link building via content marketing strategy. I'll start by explaining what the link building via content marketing strategy actually is, and then I'll show you an example that I've made myself, and of course the links that I managed to get this way. I will also show you how I built my pitch list and how I was pitching journalists, so there's a lot of valuable content in this video. And just so I don't forget to tell you, I've made a Slack group where we're discussing everything about the best backlinking strategies, showcasing the best backlinks and so on. And you can actually join it for free. Just comment below and I'll add you. Okay, let's jump into it. Okay, so what is link building via content marketing actually? Link building via content marketing is all about creating awesome content that you pitch to journalists or to news outlets and get them to write about it because they simply can't afford not to write about it. So what does making a content marketing piece actually consist of? Well, let me take you through all the steps. 1, you figure out something to write about and you write that piece. You might have to collect some data as well. Based on that, you write a piece. 2, you collect and make a pitch list of all the journalists you want to pitch to. 3, you pitch to them all. 4, you monitor and follow up. That's basically it. But of course, this is easier said than done. So I think the best way for me to teach you how to do this is by showing you an example that I've made. So let's jump into it. So a couple of years ago, I had a product and a service, which was a transcription service for students. And one of the content marketing pieces I made back then was a piece on what Ivy League university was the most popular on social media, basically. And that made sense for that particular company because we were focusing on students mainly. So that's why it made sense. Remember, when you come up with an idea for a content marketing piece, it is super important that it is relevant for whatever you are selling or offering. So it has to make sense. You cannot just make whatever that doesn't make sense to the company or the service you are offering. Okay. So, but you can already see the connection here because we were a transcription app for students. It made sense to make this research. So how we did it, let me start by showing the data to you first, and then afterwards I'll show you the content piece and also the list we were pitching to and the actual pitch that you can see a little bit of here. So let's go to the data first. Okay, so as you can see here, this was the data. It's back from 2021, but I would say that it's still relevant, right? And you could actually make this one if you wanted to yourself. Anyway, you can see the 8 Ivy League universities here, have the URLs, and I have the number of registered students back then. Of course, everything is documented, so I'm linking into where I found this information. That is very important to always document where you found the information that you found. So then I went through all their social media accounts. So Harvard University's Facebook followers, Yale University's Facebook followers, and so on. And I looked at Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Back then, TikTok was actually not that popular, but had I made it today, I would probably also have taken TikTok into account here. Then I have a total amount of followers on social media, but I also made a calculation on followers per registered student because that's an interesting a little bit of a funny angle you can take. And like as you see, let me just see out here, you can see that I'm documenting everything, right? So here's the Facebook URL, LinkedIn URL, Instagram URLs, and so on. And I remember that there were some of the universities, some of the universities also had some other kind of social media accounts, if you can call them that. So here a SoundCloud account, a Flickr. I didn't use that in the actual piece, but I did write down here that some of the universities also had some other kind of social media accounts. I didn't use Snapchat because, as you can see here, Snapchat, you can't actually find the amount of followers on Snapchat. It's not publicly available. So that's why I didn't include Snapchat followers. Okay, so this is basically the data that I used. Usually you always have to first collect the data, and then based on that you write a piece. And the best thing is if you can find some data that is publicly available somehow. Okay, then let's go back to the actual news piece, the content piece. So then I wrote a piece, and that is this one. I think this one is a draft. I would have added the date up here, and of course my name in the bottom. Well, it is actually, my name is there, but I would have made it look a little bit nicer. Anyway, so this is like the general title and a little bit about what I did and some different angles I took. So basically I made a simple table here with the total amount of followers, so which one was in the top, which one was in the bottom. And as you can see, Harvard University had the most followers at that time. They probably still do. Then I also had the other angle here, right? So followers per enrolled student. So Harvard was still in the top, but another university was in the bottom. That was University of Pennsylvania. So that's a bit interesting. And I also had followers per channel. So you can see back then, Facebook was the most popular social media, you could say, and YouTube the least popular one. And I was writing a little bit about TikTok, but today, of course, most universities probably also have a TikTok account, I could imagine. Anyway, you can already see here that there are many angles you can take. Well, I hope you can, right? Because here you also have to use your creativity, right? When you pitch, right? So of course, when you pitch to Harvard University themselves, there are many news sites that follow Harvard University. There's also like some student sites that have very high domain authority. So these sites are very great to get links from, basically. But of course, you would write differently to Harvard University compared to writing to Dartmouth College, right? So Harvard University, you could say something about Harvard University has more followers on social media than all the other Yale universities combined, right? Because I actually think that was the case. Whereas when you write to Dartmouth, you could write that Dartmouth has the least amount of followers, but that's still an interesting story, I would say, for them. So they might still write about that, right? Because maybe they could improve, or you know what I mean? So there are many angles you can take here. Okay, so here is an example of my pitch list from back then, well, some of it. And generally, you can always find at least 50 journalists or 50 outlets to write to. So I'll show you afterwards how I make this pitch list. Anyway, so as you can see up here, right? Of course, I'm writing to all the universities themselves. They always have a university paper, right? So I'm writing to them, the Crimson, that's the Harvard one, and so on, right? I then have a column where it's like what time, like what date I wrote to them. I would also usually have a follow-up column where I keep track of when I followed up, if they replied, and so on, right? So I would have a little bit more than that, right? So something like follow up and replied yes, no, right? Something like that, right? So let's just make that a little bit nicer. Yep, something like that. Okay. So you always start by adding everything you can think of yourself to the pitch list. So in this case, because the story is about the 8 Ivy League universities, you are of course going to add them to your pitch list. And right after, I'm going to show you how you can easily find the right person to write to. Anyway, so you start by adding them. Then I want to show you a feature that is called, a feature on Google that is called related. You put in related, and then you put in a domain. So let's put in harvard.edu. It will give you everything that is related to whatever you added. So that's also a cool feature that you can sometimes use to find something that you didn't think of that is related to what you already had on your list. So I then use ahrefs.com, which is a great SEO tool, especially for going through backlinks, to find more sites I can pitch to on my pitch list. And in this case, I've just added the crimson.com, and I'm now looking at all their referring domains. And the crimson.com is a student site for Harvard. So I know that if other sites are linking into the crimson.com, they might also be interesting to pitch to. So let's see if you can find some, right? So I'll just go down the list. I'm here sorting on domain rating. So let's see if you can find something. Here's something, uwaterloo.ca. I'm not sure if that is a university, but let's just see what they did here. Okay, so that is, I'm not sure, that's another university, right? So probably not that relevant. Let's just see if we can find something else, right? Digitaljournal.com. Okay, let's just see. U.S. college and universities with the biggest endowment. So that is interesting, right? So this is very interesting. It's from 2022, and this is probably the journalist, and she wrote something about U.S. colleges and so on, right? So you know what I mean, right? This is a great one to also pitch to, and we can quickly use SimilarWeb to see if this is a site with traffic. And yes, it is. It has around 1 million visitors, a million estimated visitors per month, according to similarweb.com. So this is a great site, right? So then I would basically do like this. I would copy that one, go to my pitch list, add it like here, for instance. And then I would also try and find the email, right? So first of all, it would be great to find this woman's email, right? I'm not sure if it's just available like that. Let's have a look. It doesn't look like it, or is it? No, I don't think so. But one cool tool I want to show you is an extension called Hunter. So it's this one. So I click this one, and it basically scrapes the site and gives me some of the emails that are written somewhere on this site, digitaljournal.com. So you can already see here that if I wanted to write this guy Chris, he's apparently in marketing solutions, I could just copy that one and add it to my list, which would be here, right? That's awesome, because it's always better to get a specific journalist to write to instead of just an editorial email, right? That a lot of journalists have access to, but they might not really look at it, right? The best in this case would probably be to find Ain Given's email. I'm not sure if that is possible right now, but the second best would then be to find some other journalist who has written something similar to her, maybe about universities as well, right? Yep. So that is how I would use ahrefs.com to look at a site's, well, a couple of my sites' backlink profile, and then just go through it and adding a lot of more other sites to my pitch list. And I would then also find the right people to write to using Hunter, for instance, which was the extension up here. Okay, so last but not least, I want to show you an example of a pitch I made back then. So when I say a pitch, it's basically the pitch to the journalist I'm writing to, right? So in this case, you can see that I wrote hi. I didn't actually include a name. It's always better to make it as personal as possible. So if you have a name, I would say hi, Peter, hi, whatever. And then what I usually do is to quickly sum up what this thing is that I'm sending him, right? So that he or she can quickly see if this is something that is interesting for him or not. So you can see here, I made a research. I'm linking into the research, right? That shows that there is a big difference in popularity on social media between the 8 Ivy League universities. Then I have some bullet points, right? The research shows when looking at the amount of followers per enrolled student, Harvard University comes in on top with 532 followers per enrolled student. So of course, when you're pitching to Harvard University sites, this of course should be also probably in the title, right? So by the way, my title in this case is big difference in popularity on social media between Ivy League universities. But if I were to write Harvard University, I would write something about Harvard University has a total amount of followers on social media that is bigger than all the other Ivy League universities combined, something like that, right? So you really focus on who you're writing to, right? Always do that. Okay, but anyway, you can see that I have a couple of other points here. The most popular channel among all the universities combined is Facebook, okay? And University of Pennsylvania has 40 followers per enrolled student, which is the least among the 8 universities. Even though they're in the bottom, it's still interesting, right? So why doesn't University of Pennsylvania have more followers, right? Maybe they're not as good or something like that, right? So it's like they're not as good as the other ones at focusing on social media followers. Maybe, I don't know, but it's still pretty interesting. And then I have in absolute numbers, Harvard University has more than 12 million followers on social media. This is more than all the other 7 Ivy League universities followers combined. That's a cool title, one. Then you can see here I've added a quote, because that makes it easy for the journalists to quickly use that quote in case they wanted one, right? So they wouldn't even have to write me afterwards. They could just add that one to their article, right? And of course, I'm linking into the site that I would like to get a link into, right? And in this case, it was focused on listening. That is unfortunately shut down, but that was the transcription platform that I had. And I'm saying that they can just write me in case they have any questions. I'm then adding the piece, the content piece, so that one. So they can basically copy paste it if they wanted to. And I'm adding the data, of course. That is also very important. So they can go through the data. And if they wanted to, they could also take whatever they wanted to from the data and make their own, choose the angle that they would like to choose. So this is one example of a pitch. A couple of things. Always write one by one. I would never bulk send. In this case, it's always better to send one by one. Add the name if you can. If you have the name, add the name. And then try and make it as personal as possible, as focused and as possible on the one you're writing to, right? So again, if it's someone from Harvard University, change the title to something about Harvard University. It makes sense, but yeah, just wanted to point that out. Then I'm also, when I send these emails, I'm always using Streak for tracking email opens, so that I can see if a specific user or a specific journalist has opened the emails that I've been sending them. So Streak is basically this tool. Go to streak.com. It's actually a CM built into Gmail, as it says here, but I'm only using the email open feature that they have. So, but anyway, you can just install it. Like I already installed it, as you can see here, but just install it, and then you should get it as an extension, as you can see up here. So, and I'm always using Chrome. So I think it only works for Chrome, and you have to use Gmail. So if you're using Outlook, this is not going to work. Okay, so once you edit Streak, and just to check that you have Streak installed, it should be an extension, as you can see here. And if you don't have it there, you can go to More Tools and then down to Extensions. Find the package by going to the Chrome store and put in Streak. I think you should have it now, and then you can see I've added it here, right? Anyway, let me go back. Then I'm going to show you how it works now, right? So I added an email address up here, which is one of mine. And then I'm just going to write a test message to that email. Test 4. This is a test. And then I send it. Okay. And if you then go to send and then click on the email that you just sent, you should be able to see the email, of course, like you probably always do. But then there's this new window over here where you can see, okay, right now, no one opened that email, right? But let me just show you what it then looks like if I try and open that email. And I'm just going to do that now on my mobile phone that I have here in my left hand. So I just did that now. So let's just give it a little a while. Let's just see. So I'm actually not sure if it updates automatically or if I have to go back in. Let's just try and maybe refresh. So after I refreshed, as you can see over here in this window, it says that there's now 1 views since you sent. That is cool, right? And it's 1 minute ago. And it looks like it's telling me that it was from a desktop, but I actually opened it on a mobile phone, and it does not give me the location, but it does give me the time, right? Which is really cool, right? So this is really cool when you're sending emails to journalists, because you will then be able to see the number of journalists that opens your emails, how many times they open the email that you sent them. It's always a good sign if they open the email multiple times, because then they're probably looking through everything you send them. That is great. And you can then use that to kind of formulate your emails, like your follow-up emails, a little bit differently depending on how many times they opened your email addresses, or if they even opened your email addresses. One thing you though have to be aware of is that this is not always working. You can prevent this from working. So just because that you can see a journalist didn't open your email, it might just be that he is kind of blocking this tool from working. So let's say that you now send emails to all the domains on your list, to all the journalists that you added to your pitch list. And of course, you send them one by one, because as I told you, that is the best way to do it. Then you could say that you are in the monitoring phase of your content marketing piece, right? So you're basically waiting for someone to write you and to act on that, right? So you of course used Streak to see who opens your emails, and that is great. So you can keep on looking at that. But there might be some journalist who picks up your piece of content and actually writes about it without answering you. I've had that experience multiple times. And that's where I want to show you a tool that is pretty good for noticing in case that happens. And one of these tools is called mention.com. So it's kind of like a alert tool that will tell you if someone is mentioning your brand or your name on social media, but also on different sites. It doesn't work on very small sites, but on the biggest sites it works. On big sites it works pretty well in my experience. So let me show you how it works. So you basically set up an alert, right? So let's set up an alert for the Crimson. So let's say, so this one, the Harvard Crimson, which was the website, right? So let's say we are the Harvard Crimson. So I add that one, and then I'm not going to add any keywords right now, and I'm not going to add anything here, and I'm just going to be tracking English, but you can also track in other languages, which is pretty cool, right? So as you can see here now, it then starts to populate all the mentions on social media, like Twitter, and there's another Twitter, but also these kind of, right? Where you can see like, okay, this site was talking about the Harvard Crimson here, right? So this is really cool, because that way you can easily figure out if some site that you pitch to, or some other site that you might not have pitched to, but maybe one of the sites you pitched to has forwarded to another site, you never know. But you would basically be able to notice if someone wrote about your piece. And the good thing about this is that you can then quickly go into that piece and see if there was a link added. And if there wasn't, you could then ask for a link. So the very last thing I want to show you, and the part that you're probably most interested in, is the amount of links I managed to get from this content marketing piece. And I made this content marketing piece both in Danish and Norwegian. I just showed you the English one because that is easier for you to understand, because you probably don't speak Danish or Norwegian. Anyway, as you can see here, I managed to get 5 links and 1 mention, and from sites that had a domain rating that were pretty okay actually. Well, this one was a little bit low, but let's say look at this one first. Right? So this is actually a university itself that was writing about the content piece, right? So let me just translate this to English. So here it says NMBU is the most popular university in Norway, right? And if I use this tool, which is called link parser, I can quickly see the link here, right? So this was the link into the site, and they also link into the survey. Let's just have a look at another one, right? So let's check this one, which was a domain rating 68, also a very good site. So let's just have a look. So let's also translate this to English, and that way. Okay, so you can see here, ready, prepared, start of studies, blah, blah, blah. The universities at social media. By the way, one thing I forgot to say is that you also always have to think about when it is best to make this content marketing piece. And as I remember it, I made it in August because that is when most students begin their new semester. So this was a long piece. They used a lot of my content, but what I want to show you is the link back that is down here at the bottom, right? So it's right here, and it is a follow link. So they're linking here into it, right? So as you can see, it was a content marketing piece that, of course, took time to make, especially in the different languages. But in the end, these are great links I got here, so it was 100% worth it. So I hope that you agree with me that the content marketing way of link building is a great way to get links. So that was a long one. So I really hope that you enjoyed this long video on how to make a content marketing piece, how to make a pitch list, how to pitch it, and how to monitor afterwards, right? In my opinion, this is the best way to get links because you're providing quality content to whoever you are writing to. Again, if you like this video, please just subscribe, like it, and as I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, if you want to join a Slack group that I made where we discuss these kind of content marketing strategies and other kind of link building strategies, then just write me in the comments here and I'll add you to that group. Thank you so much and see you in the next video. Bye.